Hi there, welcome to the latest edition of Red Army TV. Two fantastic guests in the studio to chat all things Boro with me. I've got Mr. Ian Galloway. Ian, welcome again, mate, friend of the show. And Mr. Joe Nicholson, who is, I've got to get this right, Joe, you are the Middlesbrough writer at the Hartlepool Mail.
That's correct, yeah.
Joe, welcome.
Good to be on.
To Red Army TV, here at the Red Army Radio Studio. Different setup than last year.
Yeah.
Fellas, loads to talk about. Obviously, before we go into the Derby game, we had a little bit of controversy before the game, to be fair. So I just want to run a couple of things past you. Obviously, Derby last week sacked Richard Keogh. Obviously, club captain, long-serving gal. Do you think that was? Do you think that was a sort of a warning to other players of the way they're going to do business?
I think at the end of the day, every footballer should be under no illusions they're a commodity. And if you put yourself out the game for 12 months because you got in the back of a vehicle that was driven by someone who was drink driving from your club, you're asking for trouble. I can see the side. I can see why he's upset because the other two players are not getting as severely reprimanded as he has. However, it's because he's 33 years of age and they're young kids.
So, Joel, obviously, Gal's just hit the nail on the head there. You know, the other two guys, Tom Lawrence, who we will come on to a little bit later, because he may have scored a couple of goals past us, but obviously they were both available to play the following week, and obviously Richard Keogh gets the sack. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it seems it's a difficult one, isn't it? Richard Keogh, as Gal's just said, you know, it was irresponsible to put himself in that position as the club captain with two younger players there in Tom Lawrence and Mason Bennett, and we don't know all the details that have gone on. You know, a lot of it has come out, but you know, it's a difficult situation, and Derby have obviously put their point across and made that call, and you know, we'll see how it pans out in the next few weeks. Well,
we'll come on to Tom Lawrence very shortly, because he pops up a couple of times in what we've got to talk about. But look, other off-field things as well, Joe. Obviously, the Boro suing sort of EFL over fair play, and obviously the Derby Stadium sale and things like that. How much did that sort of precede the game, lead into the game? Did they have a point to prove?
It added a little bit of extra edge. I think you could tell with the fans, the Middlesbrough fans, who well supported. They were at Derby, and the Derby fans as well. There were chants of Mel Morris's name and Steve Gibson were going back and forth. And then when Derby did take the lead, there was some more goading going on, saying, Gibson, what's the score? So it did add that little bit of edge between the two sets of fans, made for a good atmosphere, actually. I don't think it really played too much of a part in the actual game. I don't think it was really on either manager's mind. They both played it down in the build-up to the game, and I think were fully focused on the fixture. But certainly between the two sets of fans, there was a little bit of edge with the off-field issues.
Gal, do you think we should sort of maybe keep our nose out of other people's businesses and try and sort out our own woes at our football club?
I think if you're a Boro fan, you respect Steve Gibson. We all do. However, if you're not a Boro fan, from the outside looking in, you'd be quite quick to say it's probably looks like sour grapes that they got into the playoffs and we didn't, and it's come out afterwards. If there was a problem, and I know he tried to identify it earlier on in the season, but when he did, all the other chairmen in the league, I think there's only two of them backed him out of the full league. So there's a bit more to it, I think.
So, fellas, just before we go into the actual game itself, then, obviously two players who weren't around on Saturday. Randolph injured, Joe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Coulson out of the squad as well.
He was on the bench, wasn't he?
Yeah, on the bench, sorry. But out of the team, should we say. Now, I've been reading a lot of social media because I'm boring. I read a lot of social media, a lot of podcasts and things like that. There's a rumour Randolph maybe not as injured as he may be, but there's interest in January from a big club with a big fee.
Right.
How much do you think is in that, or is it just plain that the lad's injured?
I'm not sure. I think you've got to go with the line that he's injured. I think we'll see in the next few weeks whether he plays for Ireland. I think he's touch and go for that game, because that's a big game for Ireland, because they need to win that to qualify for the European Championship. So from what I've heard and from what Woodgate's said today, I think he's 50-50 for that Ireland game in the international break, which is the week after this weekend's game against QPR. So we'll see if he comes back into the fold after that and whether he does feature for Ireland, because it's a big game for them.
And Coulson, Gal, is he a big? I mean, he hit the ground running, didn't he, at the start of the season? He was like a new signing, if you like. is he a miss, or do you think Woodgate sort of seeing through him now and thinking we needed someone a little bit more experienced?
I think he's a miss. I think he comes on, he does buzz about. His defending's not as good as I'd like, but going forward, he's very good. So as a wing back, I think he's ideal. But I just think the proof of the pudding, he's been out injured for a long time, so you bring him back in. But he played him the other night on the wing for the under-23s against Man United at the Riverside. So that tells me that Woodgate does like him. But it's like anything, if you've had a long-term injury, the minute you come back, you're more susceptible to get an injury. So you have to be a bit cautious. So I think that's really what's going on.
So the game itself, fellas, obviously, we know the score, you know, a 2-0 defeat down at Derby County. And we'll come on to Tom Lawrence's goals. But I'll try and do it chronologically if we can. Obviously, 90 seconds in, Joe.
Yeah.
Could the game have been very, very different?
Yeah, 100%. It was a huge chance that Britta Sombalonga missed, and Woodgate will get criticism for the run that he's on, and he's obviously not blameless for this 8-game winless run that Middlesbrough are on, but at the end of the day, he can't put the ball in the back of the net when Britta Sombalonga goes round the goalkeeper and basically had an open goal. Then he hesitates, the defender got back and eventually cleared the ball, and I got the impression after that Derby game that Woodgate's patience with the strikers is starting to wear a bit thin. He came out today in his press conference today again and was all about positivity, backing his strikers, and he said that from day one, from pre-season, that he's going to come out and back his players. Remember when Sombalonga missed that penalty at Luton, he came out and said he'll take the next one. He's my number 9, but I got the impression after that Derby game he was saying, what more confidence can I give them? I've backed them in every press conference, every team meeting, every one-on-one, and they're still not really delivering. So you got the impression that he's confident, his kind of patience with them was just wearing a little bit thin, and it's understandable because Boro are the lowest scorers in the Championship, haven't scored for 4 games, and that Sombalonga miss, if that goes in, the whole game could be completely different.
Now, over the last couple of games, Gal, it tends that Woody sorted the back. Well, it's a back 3, back 5, however you want to look at it. The formations we play. It seems that we've sorted that out a little bit. Now, obviously, looking at a 2-0 defeat there, but we'll come on to the red card. Do you think he's sort of doing something different now in training, Woody? But it looked like at the start we were sort of, you know, going out gung-ho to try and play this attacking, attractive footballer he was promising us all, and sort of forgetting about our defensive routine. Do you think he's been working on the defence of late? Oh,
definitely. The defence isn't the issue, and because they're keeping clean sheet. They got beat 2-0, but they kept a clean sheet at Birmingham. But for me, the issue is, and everyone goes about the fantastic Johnny Howson, and he's a good player for me, but I've never seen him cross a ball in where he beats the first man. And I think it must be, when we've got a midfield like we've got, they're trying their hardest to get in the box, and there's nothing getting crossed into them. I don't, and I think that's where our problems lie on the flanks. I think that the delivery's not coming in from the flanks at all.
Before we got the red card, fellas, I'll just tell you, got some bits and bobs on the social media. Chris Lofthouse has been on. Problem is with the squad is too thin to replace players that aren't performing, so Woody's got no option but to back them. That's going from you, Joe. And do you know what, Joe? Alex Brown is a great guy who comes on all the time. Please don't take this offensively. He's put, I don't know who the posh lad is, but he talks a lot of sense. Now, that is a compliment made for yourself.
I'll take that one,
I'll take that one.
Yeah, that means me and you aren't posh, mate. That's what it means.
Cheers, Alex.
Yeah. Ibrahim Tanner, rumours will always be worse when things are bad at the club. That's from Ibrahim Tanner. He's a top fan. So, look, the fans aren't daft. You know, one thing I've always say about Boro fans is, 85-90% of them know the gravy when it comes to football. You know, they know what on. The red card, just before we go to the break, the red card. Gal, I'll come to you. Do you think it was a red card?
Definitely, yeah. And I've seen it a couple of times now. And listen to Madison. He talks a lot of sense, and he said, yeah, it was rash. You shouldn't have done it. And for him to say that tells me that, an ex-professional has seen it, who's a Boro fan, and he said it was a red. That'll do for me.
Well, I've got to agree. As soon as I seen it initially, I thought it was a red card. But George, do you think it was a red card?
When I first saw it actually at the ground, I thought he had to go for the ball. I thought it was a 50-50 ball. He went in for it, and Johnny Howson came out afterwards and said he has to go for it. But the more you watch it back, it is a really bad tackle, and he flew in. He was out of control. he left his foot in there, it was a red card.
I thought he lunged. I thought he was sort of leaning in to try and get it. And I just thought he could have stood him up. But hey, what do I know?
He's on a bad run of form, Saville. So he's going to get frustrated and something like that. He's if he was playing well, he probably wouldn't have lunged and he wouldn't have needed to.
And things like that obviously change the game. At the moment with a team devoid of confidence. So when something like that happens, certainly the younger players who are amongst the team are sort of looking at that and thinking, oh no, we're on a hiding or nothing now. But fellas, look, we'll come back and finish Derby off very shortly. We've got more from the social media very shortly. Join us after this quick break. Hi there, welcome back to Red Army TV. Got Ian Galloway and Joe Nicholson in the studio. Fellas, just before we went to the break there, obviously we're chatting the defeat down at Derby. A couple of things I want to talk post-match, Joe. Both Woodgate and Johnny Howson said it was fine margins after the game. Do we think even with 11v11 would it have been fine margins?
11v11, I thought Middlesbrough actually started pretty well. We've mentioned the Assombalonga chance in the second minute, and if that goes in, as we said, it is a completely different game. And I think Middlesbrough were causing Derby some problems. They were pressing them quite high. Derby were quite keen to play out from the back, and Middlesbrough were pressing them high and causing them problems. But as soon as the George Saville red card, which we mentioned, I think from then on the result was pretty inevitable.
Do you think that, Gal? Do you think, and Woodgate says it in his post-match interview, from the 37th minute when Saville was sent off, was that game over?
I find it strange that he says that because the week before he would have preferred to play against 11 Fulham players, but then when we go down to 10 like they did, then the game's over. But I don't understand his comment. I just think at the end of the day, you can only go for it and do what you do, but I just said that they're a good ball passing team, to be fair, and if they've got an extra man, then they'll run you ragged. Yeah. I think that's what happened.
So just a quick one for you fellas. Obviously Ainsley Pears had two games now he's played in goal for the Boro. Been included.
It's 3, isn't it?
Is it 3?
Yeah.
But been included twice in Team of the Week in the national press. Mm-hmm. Bear in mind, we lost.
Yeah.
Do we think he's been magnificent, Joe?
I wouldn't say he's been magnificent. I think he's been solid. I think he kept back-to-back clean sheets, didn't he, which we hadn't done for a while, even with Darren Randolph in goal. And then we had the Derby game where you may think it's a bit harsh, but I thought he maybe could have got down to the first goal, the Lawrence strike. I think he actually got a hand to it. It wasn't strong enough.
I thought it was a little bit close to him to get down and to try and get that much power on. But look, football's about opinion, fellas, isn't it? That's what we're here for. But I thought it was a little bit close to him to get down and sort of have the power to try.
He did get a hand to it though, didn't he?
He did. And for a young keeper, it's daunting for any player to make a debut, but to make a debut when the team, well, like we said, is confidence is not very high. Look, Gal, a couple of rumours doing the rounds. I seen something on social media last week about senior players taking a pay cut at the club. I don't know whether you've seen it. These involve people like Ayala, Howson, Bowler. Now, we'll come on to Bowler. It's a bit of a funny one. Bear in mind, we've only just signed him. Ayala, Howson. Would you want them? Firstly, would you want them to stay? And secondly, obviously, if they are going to stay, they need to take a pay cut. Are there two players who you would probably want to keep at the club?
Yeah, I think if we're going down this line of recruiting from within and bringing the young uns through, you need experience. And I definitely think if Ayala was come onto the open market, there'd be a lot of clubs interested because he is a very, very good player. I think if he was in the Premier League and the VAR system was available, we'd give a few penalties away because he gets stuck in the box a bit. But in the Championship, he's a very, very good player. He's a good captain, definitely. Howson, again, he brings the experience. Yeah, I'd definitely keep him. And if they're willing to take a pay cut, fair play to them.
And the same question to you, Joe. Obviously, Ayala's, I think he's played over 200 games for the club.
Yeah.
Are them two players? I mean, I think Howson with McNair probably been our two better players this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
So Howson for me is a no-brainer. If he's willing to take a pay cut, I would have a player like him all the time. But would you sort of like want them two type of players to stay at the club?
Yeah, obviously we don't know the exact figures with the wage cut and what the kind of margins are there, but you look at Ayala and Howson, Ayala's been club captain this season with Friend being out, and Johnny Howson. If you listen to Jonathan Woodgate in his press conferences, the two players he mentioned a lot at the start of the season when he got asked about experienced players and the kind of role models in the dressing room, he always mentioned Johnny Howson and George Friend were the two players that he said they're the kind of guys you've got to aspire to be like. They're the people that come in, day out.
Model professionals,
yeah,
if you like.
Pretty much. So I think Ayala and Howson, the two players that you've mentioned, they are still very key players in the dressing room, and I think if they can tie them onto new deals, I think they've still definitely got a lot more to offer.
Now, the Bowler one's a little bit funny,
yeah.
Because obviously, there'll be fans sat out there saying, Bowler, he's only just signed. We haven't seen that much of him, to be fair. But I think it's a length of his contract, Joe, isn't it? It was where we normally say undisclosed fee. The length of the contract was actually undisclosed with this. So he may be on a very short contract.
And that was the same as well for Dyke, Steele and Brown, the other two new signings. The club didn't actually announce how long the contracts were, so we're kind of in the dark a little bit with those two. So it's a funny situation because all three obviously were playing in League One last season. They've made the step up. Early signs suggest they're not quite ready yet because all three have come into the side and have dropped out because, let's be honest, they've struggled. So we're not quite sure what the length of their contracts are.
Another couple of little rumours on the old management coaching front, shall we say? I read somewhere today that Tony McMahon and Harry Kewell are rumoured to be joining Woodgate's backroom staff, coaching staff. Now, I know what I think about that, but Gal, are they going to bring anything else to the table?
I think Kewell's got experience. He has managed, hasn't he? So he's done it, but Tony McMahon hasn't. But again, he's a Boro legend, as you would say, from not so long ago. It's bringing people in that have the rapport with the players, but they can grip them when they need to be gripped. And I think that's what the problem is at the minute. I don't see anybody there who can say you need to start before. I get what Woodgate does. He doesn't like to knock the players publicly, which is admirable. But what's going on the training field? Because there's stuff happening on the pitch, on a match day, on the park there, that shouldn't be happening. And it must be stemming from what's going on at the training ground.
We'll have a quick look at the social media. John Brady says the full club is undisclosed. We'll have better players on the bench than the pitch at this rate. That's from Mike Collins. Russ Johnson says the players taking an apparent pay cut have two options: stay on less money or move their entire family for less money. No one anywhere else will give them what they're on now, and they will still be getting a small fortune. So, we like you said, Joe, we don't know the margins. We don't know. John Brady's come back on and said Ayala, the only player worth his salt at the moment. Got to disagree with him.
Good call.
Yeah, I mean, Ayala's doing well. I've got to disagree with him with Howson. I think Howson and McNair have been really good.
Yeah.
Look, fellas, I hate to use the word look ahead because look ahead means that we can't wait for something, and at the minute the results aren't getting fans to the point where we are looking ahead. But obviously, you've got QPR coming up, massive game. To be fair, probably the next 3 games. We were speaking off air, Joe. Probably the next 3 games are massive for Woody. But it looks like that we've got a massive injury list. Let me just go through this injury list here. Pairs injured with doubt for Saturday.
50-50.
50-50. Middle, and we could be without 9 players for Saturday's game. Marcus Brown, hamstring. Rudiger Stead, hamstring. Ben Liddell, illness. Ryan Shotton, thigh. Darren Randolph, as we know, thigh. George Friend, thigh. Ashley Fletcher, calf. And obviously Ainsley Pears with his finger. We've know through the press we've just recalled a young lad from Darlington.
Yeah.
Is this a massive worry, Joe?
It is a massive worry, yeah. And again, that's another thing that it's out of Woodgate's control, isn't it? Really, you could maybe question the kind of the fitness program. There seems to be a lot of thigh injuries there. I don't know if there's a recurring theme there, but I think it's unlucky. But I think a lot of the time you make your own luck, and we knew in the summer the squad was light. People were saying that, fans were saying that, the media was saying that. Even Woodgate admitted that the squad is not kind of strong enough. It's not big enough. We didn't bring enough bodies in the summer, and now we knew this could happen. And a lot of injuries have happened at the same time, and now we're left with this situation where the squad is so thin.
So, Gal, bear in mind where we are at the foot of the table. Is it a time to give the kids a chance? Or is that all he's got to do? Is that all he's going to be able to do?
He's going to have no choice. We can't not put a team out and get blackburned like we did years ago. He's got to play these kids. He's got no choice. I think that them injuries, when you look at them, it seems to be weather related. As soon as the weather turns, they move to the indoor and they go on that 3G stuff. And that seems to, anyone that still kicks a ball about, now you go on that stuff, it's horrible. I think that might have something to do with it. But at the end of the day, I watched QPR the other night, and they're a decent team. They're dangerous, especially at home. And you know who's playing for them now and banging them in.
Yes, we do. Mr. Ugal. Anyway, look, Tyrone O'Neill come back from Darlington. And look, we're running really short of time, but Tyrone O'Neill come back from Darlington. He's going to be included for the squad, Joe, for Saturday. Obviously, he's going to be on the bench. Prediction for QPR?
2-1 to QPR.
2-1 to QPR. Joe, how long do we give Woodgate?
It's a difficult question. As you said before, I don't know where you turn to if you do get rid of Woodgate. We've got, they got rid of Tony Pulis in the summer, who was kind of that pragmatic manager that would typically keep a team up. So I just don't know what sacking Woodgate would do.
And a prediction for QPR?
1-1.
Going for the 1-1 draw. Well, look, I'll sit on the fence, fellas, but I'm going to say
7-0.
No, I'm not. I normally do something silly, but I'm going to say Boro will just scrape it. I'm going to say a 1-0 win. Whether it keeps him in the job for a bit longer or whether it just prolongs our agony. Thanks very much, fellas, for joining us. Join me next week on Red Army TV, hopefully with 3 points in the bag. Come on, Boro.